The truth no one tells men about sex. Every time a man enters a woman, something leaves him. Not just his body. Not just desire. A fragment of his soul. And if he's not conscious, if he's just chasing pleasure or escape, he may never get that part back. Because real intimacy, it isn't about the body. It's about the soul. And most men are giving theirs away, without even knowing it. Beyond the physical, the soul's silent offering in intimacy. Have you ever asked yourself what you're truly giving during sex? It's not just your body. Not just your passion. Not just performance. You give your essence. You give your energy. You give, if you're not careful, a piece of your soul. And here's the haunting truth. Most men aren't offering it from a place of fullness. They're offering it from a wound. A silent ache for love. A desperate need to be seen. A quiet hope to finally feel chosen. But instead of confronting that ache, they mask it. They hide it under confidence, drown it in lust, or bury it beneath the armor of masculinity society taught them to wear. What unfolds in the bedroom is far more than bodies colliding. It's energy merging. Spirits intertwining. Imprints being left behind. And for the man who's never confronted his inner emptiness, intimacy becomes a battlefield, one where he loses something sacred each time he enters a space without awareness. Carl Jung and the portal of intimacy, a channel between worlds. Carl Jung believed that our unconscious speaks not in words, but in symbols, impulses, and actions. And in sex, raw, unmasked, real sex, that unconscious doesn't just whisper. It screams. Jung taught that the body is more than flesh, it's a portal. Every act of intimacy is a doorway between the conscious and unconscious mind. Every caress. Every sigh. Every gaze. They carry messages, memories, and ancestral echoes. You're not just sleeping with someone's body. You're sleeping with their history, their trauma, their energy. And when a man connects with someone who is emotionally wounded or energetically misaligned, the result isn't pleasure. It's exhaustion. The unexplained fatigue after sex. The emotional fog. The soul-numbing detachment. That's not just physical depletion. That's energetic contamination. Because sex isn't just physical, it's spiritual warfare when done unconsciously. The soul's exposure, the terrifying nakedness of true intimacy. Real intimacy isn't about removing clothes. It's about removing masks. And that kind of nakedness is terrifying. In those quiet pauses, between breath and touch, the inner child shows up. The one who longed to be held without earning it. The one who was taught love had to be performed for. The one who still wonders, am I enough? True intimacy exposes the self. Not just the body, but the brokenness. And when presence replaces performance, sex becomes a mirror. It reflects everything you've been hiding, from her, and from yourself. That's why most men run. Not because they fear closeness. But because they fear being seen. Sacred pleasure, the feminine within the masculine. From a young age, men are taught to perform. Be skilled. Be strong. Be impressive. But sacred intimacy isn't about performance. It's about presence. Within every man lives the anima, Jung's term for the inner feminine. This isn't weakness. This is where his sensitivity, intuition, and capacity for soul-level pleasure lives. When a man slows down, when he stops proving and starts feeling, he meets her, the woman before him. And her, the woman within. Touch becomes prayer. The body becomes a temple. Pleasure becomes a return, to self, to soul, to source. Desire or displacement. The hidden trap of seeking approval. Many men say they want love. But what they really want is to be chosen. Not just by a woman. But by the mother who didn't see them. By the father who didn't approve. By the world that made them feel invisible. So they perform. They overgive. They lose themselves in the role of the good guy, secretly hoping that being kind will finally earn them worth. But that's not love. That's a wound wearing a smile. When sex becomes a transaction for validation. When desire is used to cover emptiness. The man doesn't connect, he projects. He makes her a savior. And when she fails to complete him, he resents her. Because he never truly saw her. He only saw his own unhealed pain. The shadow's grip, unconscious repetition of pain. Jung said. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Most men think they're choosing their partners. But in truth, their wounds are choosing for them. The shadow, everything repressed, ignored, denied, pulls the strings. And sex becomes either a stage or a war zone. A place to impress. Or a place to dominate. Rarely, a place to heal. Every man eventually projects onto a woman what he refuses to face within himself. She becomes his mirror. And if he hates what he sees, he turns on her. But it was never about her. It was about the reflection. The path of true masculine awakening. Real masculine awakening doesn't happen through more sex. It happens through more silence. More stillness. More soul-level truth. A man can only become whole when he stops outsourcing his worth. When he sits with his hunger instead of escaping it. When he faces his loneliness instead of filling it. When he learns to hold his own void with reverence. From that place, sex becomes sacred. Intimacy becomes transformational. Connection becomes real. Energetic discernment, the sacred responsibility of union. Let this be known. Not every woman deserves access to your body. And no one deserves access to your energy without consciousness. Sex is not casual. It's energetic fusion. Every time you enter her body, you enter her frequency, her karma, her story. If she is disconnected from herself, chaotic, or wounded, you absorb that. If you are not anchored, you carry her pain long after the night ends. That unexplained heaviness after being with her. It's not weakness. It's a signal. Your body is wise. Your soul is speaking. Stop ignoring it. This is the ritual, the return to self. So ask yourself, truthfully. How many times have you given your body? Hoping it would finally make you feel loved. Only to wake up feeling emptier. How often have you mistaken chemistry for connection? Lust for love. Performance for power. This isn't just about sex anymore. This is about awakening. You don't need to get women. You need to meet yourself. Because every act of intimacy is either a step towards self-abandonment. Or a return to self. Final invitation, a standard for the sacred. From this moment forward, let your energy have standards. Let your body become sacred ground. Let your soul choose what your flesh once settled for. Sex is not just an act. It's a ceremony. It's a portal. So ask yourself. Will you continue to give yourself to those who only want your body? Or will you reclaim your energy and wait for the one who wants your soul? If this message stirred you, don't scroll past. Speak. Share. Subscribe, not just to this channel, but to your awakening. Because this isn't just about desire. It's about becoming a man who no longer gives himself away to be chosen. This is your return to self. Your soul is watching. Conclusion, the return of the sacred masculine. There comes a moment in every man's life when the illusions begin to crack. The thrill fades. The performance exhausts. The masks get heavy. And beneath all the noise, he hears something terrifying and sacred. Silence. In that silence lives the truth he's been running from, the realization that he's been offering his body in search of something far deeper. That every time he entered a woman unconsciously, he wasn't just chasing pleasure, he was chasing presence, meaning, wholeness. But sex cannot heal what the soul won't face. And here's the brutal, holy truth. Until a man meets himself in the dark. Until he looks into the mirror without flinching. Until he feels his ache without needing it to end. He will continue leaking his energy into women who were never meant to carry his soul. He will confuse sex for salvation. He will mistake approval for love. He will project his wounds onto women. And blame them when they fail to complete him. This isn't because he's weak. It's because he's been asleep. Asleep to his own sacredness. Asleep to the spiritual weight of his presence. Asleep to the fact that his masculine energy is not just a tool, it is a force of nature, a divine current meant to hold, not chase. To penetrate with purpose, not perform for praise. But now, something has shifted. Something ancient within you is awakening. It's the part of you that remembers sex is sacred. That remembers your body is a temple. That knows your presence is not just attractive, it's transformative. This isn't about celibacy. This isn't about shame. This is about discernment. The conscious masculine doesn't stop desiring intimacy. He just stops giving his power to unconscious encounters. He no longer entertains women who are emotionally closed, energetically chaotic, or spiritually unanchored, not because he judges them, but because he respects himself. He sees what's at stake now. He knows that every intimate union is an energetic exchange, a spiritual portal, and a contract written in frequency. And if the union is entered unconsciously, it's not just unsatisfying, it's dangerous. It leaves you drained. It leaves you scattered. It leaves you longing for yourself in the arms of someone else. But there is another way. The path of the awakened masculine. A man on this path begins to hold his energy like royalty. He treats his attention as gold. He stops chasing chaotic pleasure and starts magnetizing divine partnership. He no longer hides behind dominance or submission. He no longer uses sex to numb the ache. He no longer needs to be chosen to feel worthy. Why? Because he has already chosen himself. He has sat in his pain and not abandoned himself. He has grieved the boy who just wanted to be loved. He has made peace with the parts of him he once disowned. And from this place of wholeness, he no longer performs. He no longer conquers. He no longer fragments. He builds. He anchors. He becomes a man whose presence heals without words, whose gaze undresses without threat, whose touch awakens the divine in the woman before him. He no longer looks for his mother in his lover. He no longer bleeds on the feminine, then blames her for not holding him. He no longer confuses chemistry with compatibility. Because now, he sees clearly. He sees that not every connection is sacred. That some forms of pleasure are distractions from pain. That intimacy without integrity is simply another wound waiting to happen. He begins to ask different questions. Does she meet me in spirit? Is she attuned to her body, her truth, her heart? Does she value my presence, or just my performance? Is she safe enough for my soul to land? He doesn't ask this from ego. He asks this from sovereignty. Because now, his body is not for everyone. His soul is not on clearance. His energy is earned, not extracted. This man, this awakened force, no longer lives to be consumed. He lives to create. To lead. To protect what is sacred within himself and others. And when he does choose to enter a woman, it is no longer from hunger, it is from overflow. No longer from desperation, but from clarity. No longer to be filled, but to meet her fully, present and whole. This kind of man doesn't sleep with a woman's body. He sleeps with her frequency. And if she cannot hold her own pain, her own truth, her own divinity, he walks away. Not because he's cold. But because he's awake. This man has reclaimed his soul. And once a man reclaims his soul, He never offers it blindly again. So if you've read this far, something in you is rising. Maybe you've been that man who gave himself away too easily. Maybe you've woken up next to someone and felt more alone than ever. Maybe you've mistaken performance for intimacy, sex for connection, attention for love. But that was the old you. The boy seeking completion. Now the man in you is stirring. And he doesn't chase. He chooses. He walks with reverence. He speaks with depth. He touches with presence. He enters with intention. And he remembers. Sex is not an escape. It is a ritual. His body is not a weapon. It is an oracle. His soul is not for sale. It is a sanctuary. And his love is not performance. It is a frequency. So before you sleep with her again, ask yourself. Am I doing this from power or from pain? From presence or from fear? From clarity or from hunger? Because your soul is watching. And it remembers what you've forgotten. You were never meant to give yourself away to be chosen. You were meant to be whole before you touch another soul. Welcome back, King. Your sacred return has begun.